Hello and welcome. Today we're going to build a mobile app together completely without writing any code using a fantastic tool called FlutterFlow. So, what exactly are we building today? We'll be creating a mobile app focused on restaurants, specifically Michelin-rated restaurants. And the best part, by the end of this video, this will this app will actually be running on our own devices. I've broken down the process into three main parts to make it easy to follow. First, we'll set up our database. Second, we'll design the look and feel of the app. And finally, we'll deploy it so we can use it. But first, let's take a quick peek at what the finished app will look like. Here's the plan for our app, visualized as a storyboard. We are going to create three pages. The first page is our main entry point. On this page, when you tap the Explore button, it will take you straight to the next page, which lists all the restaurants' names. Now, on this second page, tapping on any restaurant name will lead you to the final page. This page displays detailed information about that specific restaurant, its name, cuisine type, city, and country. And from this details page, there is a button you can tap. Tapping it will open a new tab in your web browser, taking you directly to the official Michelin website page for that particular restaurant. So, how do we actually build this? Here are the steps we'll follow in detail. First, setting up the database. Then, designing each of our three pages, page A, B, and C. And finally, deploying the app onto our devices. Alright, let's dive into the first step. We'll start by creating a new project on both FlutterFlow and Firebase. FlutterFlow actually supports several different platforms for building your app. For this project, though, we're going to use Firebase. I chose Firebase mainly because it allows you to easily upload data from a CSV file without needing any code. First things first, let's find FlutterFlow using Google. Just search for FlutterFlow and you'll see results like this. Go ahead and click on the FlutterFlow link. This is the main page for FlutterFlow. Look towards the upper right side. You'll see the login button. Please click on that. Once you're logged in, if it's your very first time using FlutterFlow, you might have a short survey to fill out. If you've used it before, you should see a Create New button. Click this button to start a new project. You'll then see this pop-up window. Your screen for creating a project might look a bit different visually, but don't worry. Even if the design differs, the core process stays the same. So if your screen looks different, just look for similar options or features. The first thing we need to do is give our project a name and then click the Start Building button. Alternatively, you can also access the setup features through the settings menu. You can get there by clicking the settings icon and then choosing Firebase. From there, you'll find a Create Project button. Please click it. In the pop-up that appears, please select your region. In my case, I'm choosing Montreal. Then you'll need to sign in to FlutterFlow using your Google account. On this screen, look for the green wizard hat icon and click on it, and you'll see these setup pop-ups appear. In this first pop-up, make sure to select Enable Web. I'll explain why we need this a bit later on. Then click Next Step to proceed with the project setup. Now click Create Project, or if you're you've already done this part, you might see a green status box confirming Firebase project created. It does take a little while to load, so you might have some waiting time until the project is fully created. Please be patient and take your time here. Once it finishes, click this button, or you can enable authentication manually directly in the Firebase console to link FlutterFlow to your Firebase project. When you click the Enable Auth on Firebase button, you'll be automatically redirected to the Firebase console. Go ahead and click the Get Started button, and then select the email/password option. Next, enable this feature and make sure to save it. If you see the status change to enabled in green, you know it's worked correctly. Okay, now let's head back to FlutterFlow and click the Complete Firebase Setup button. In the pop-up window, click the Generate Files button. And then finally click the Start Building button. Alright, for our next step, we need to create the database and upload our restaurant data. Look for the database icon on the left-hand side menu in FlutterFlow, and then click Create Collection. Think of collections as a simple way to organize your data, almost like a table in a database. Then click the Create button. And after that, click the Manage Content button. This is where you can upload your CSV file. I'll provide a link to the CSV file I'm using in the YouTube description below, or feel free to use your own. I decided to use a CSV file for this project specifically because we're aiming this tutorial at beginners. And as you probably know, getting data into a CSV file is pretty straightforward. If you're familiar with Excel or Google Sheets, just imagine entering your data there, and when you're done, you simply go to the File menu and choose Download as CSV. Then you'll have your prepared CSV file ready, and you can easily upload it to FlutterFlow right here. Once you upload your CSV file, you'll see this screen showing a preview of your data. This screen also lets you set the data type for each column or field. For our app, every field will be set as a string, except for the very last one. The last column might look like text, like a URL, but we're actually going to use this as image links in our app. So for that last column, make sure to set the type as image path. All the other fields should remain string. Then just follow the remaining on-screen instructions, and soon you'll see your data successfully uploaded, looking something like this. Now, if you go back into the main FlutterFlow view, you'll notice that the fields for your collection have been automatically created based on your CSV. It's really quite convenient. Just so you know, since we've already linked FlutterFlow and Firebase, you could also create collections and upload data manually directly in Firebase. You'd go to the Firestore database section in Firebase and create a collection there. But honestly, doing it this way through FlutterFlow is much easier and saves quite a bit of time. Okay, one final crucial step for handling our data. Please don't forget to set the database roles. We can do this by going back to the database section in FlutterFlow and clicking the gear icon to configure the rules. If you skip this step, you can still build your app, but you'll likely start receiving warning emails from Google later on saying your security rules are about to expire or have already expired. They actually send you emails quite frequently, almost every day. So it's definitely better to set them up correctly right now. For the create permission, make sure it's set to no one. Also, ensure the small shield icon is deactivated, not highlighted. Then click the deploy button. When the deployment finishes successfully, you'll see a confirmation, usually a green check mark, appear on the screen. Now let's get into the fun parts, designing the actual pages of our app. But before we jump right into building, I want to quickly show you around the main sections of the FlutterFlow interface. I like to think of it in three main areas. First, we have this section here on the left. Then there's another section on the left. And finally, we have this panel over on the right side. This area on the left side contains icons representing different features within FlutterFlow. When you click on one of these icons, like the widget icon for example, you'll see more detailed options related to that feature next to it. For instance, clicking the widgets icon shows you all the various widgets you can add to your page. Now when you select one of these widgets, let's say you selected text widget from the left panel, then the details and settings for that specific widget pop up over on the right side. This right-hand panel is called the Properties section. So you select the widget on the left and you adjust its properties like the actual text content, font size, color, etc. over on the right. In FlutterFlow, the concept of a widget is really important. Basically, there are two main types, single child widgets and multi-child widgets. A single child widget is just one single element like a piece of text or an image. Multi-child widgets, on the other hand, are designed to hold multiple other widgets inside them, often organizing them in a specific layout like a list or grid. You might be wondering, what does child mean here? In this context, a child simply refers to a widget that is placed inside another widget. Okay, with that quickly overview done, let's start creating our pages. Page A, our main page, is going to look like this. We'll have a background image, some text overlaid on it, a decorative divider line, and an Explore button. To create a brand new page, we'll start with a blank template. Go over to the widget tree section on the left. You might see a green button with a plus sign, or the icon might be displayed on a different section depending on your screen size, but look for the option to add a new page. When the dialog box pops up, click the Create Blank button. Let's name this page A_main, and then click the Create Page button. If everything works, you should now see your new blank page on the screen looking something like this. Now let's do a little bit of initial setup for this page. On the left side, in the widget tree, find the main widget for our page, which is named A_main. Select it and then go over to the Properties panel on the right. Look for an option called Save Area and make sure you deactivate it. We're doing this so that our app's main content uses the entire available screen space on any device. Still looking at the widget tree on the left under A underscore main, you might see a few default widgets that FlutterFlow added automatically. But we don't need this, so let's delete them. You can usually delete a widget by right-clicking on it in the widget tree and choosing the delete option from the menu, or often you can just select it and press the delete key on your keyboard. Once you only have the main A underscore main widget left, click the little add widget icon next to it. It often looks like a small plus sign on a square. From the options that appear, select a container. We're adding a container because it acts like a box that we can put all our other page elements, so widgets, inside. With the container selected in the widget tree, let's go over to the properties panel on the right and find the container properties section. In that section, you'll see width and height settings. Click the infinity symbol icon for both width and height. We're using the infinity setting instead of trying to drag the container size on the main canvas. This ensures our container automatically stretches to fill the entire width and height of the screen, no matter what device the app is running on. Okay, back to the left side. Make sure the container is selected and click its Add Widget icon. This time select Image. Now head over to the Properties panel on the right. Find the image type setting. Change the type to Asset. We choose Asset because we're going to use an image file that we'll upload directly into our FlutterFlow project. For the actual image file, I'll provide a link in the YouTube description below. The image is named main_image. Please download it and then use the upload button here in the properties to add it as an asset. Alternatively, feel free to use any other image you like. Great, the image should now be visible. What's the next widget we need? It's the text. Make sure the container is selected on the left and click its Add Widget icon again. When you try to add a second widget directly into the container, you'll likely see this pop up. It's asking how you want to arrange multiple widgets within the container. Using a column arranges things vertically, a row arranges things horizontally, or a stack lets you layer things on top of each other. If you choose column, you can place widgets one below the other in a vertical line, and you can control spacing using settings on the right. That works fine, and some people prefer it, but for our design today, we'll use a stack instead. This will allow us to easily drag and drop our text and other elements exactly where we want them, layering them on top of the background image. So select Stack. Now on the left side widget tree, select the image widget, which is now inside the stack, and go to its properties on the right. Just like we did for the container, set the width and height of the image to infinite. Click the infinite icons so it fills the entire screen space defined by the stack and container. Go back to the widget tree on the left. This time, select this new text widget and go to its properties on the right. First, let's change the default text. It probably says "Hello World." Let's change this text to Michelin 3 stars. But we want it on 3 separate lines, so type Michelin, then press enter for a line break, type 3, press enter again, and finally type stars. Still in the text properties on the right side, find the font family section. Here, you'll choose the font style. It might be a little confusing because the option is called the font family, but the actual font name might be under a label like secondary family. But don't get confused by the labeling. Secondary family in this context is just referring to the specific font name. Search for outfit and select the outfit font. While we're still adjusting the text properties on the right, set the font size to 60. For the text color, click the small color swatch chip. This opens the color palette. Select the pure white color from the palette. You'll see other predefined colors too, but these often change based on the device's theme, like light mode versus dark mode. Since we want this title text to always be white regardless of the theme, we're picking white from the palette. Alright, now that we have our styled text, you can click and drag it directly on the canvas. Position it, leaving a nice margin from the top edge and the left edge of the screen. So now we have our background image and our overlaid text. The next widget we need to add is the divider. To add a divider, we follow a similar process. For the stack widget in the widget tree on the left, click its Add Widget icon. Now try search for a divider in the widget list. You'll notice that divider does not show up as an option. That's because a divider widget can typically only be placed inside a column, not directly in a stack. No problem. Let's add a column first. With the stack still selected, click its Add Widget icon and choose the column widget. Now, select the newly added column in the widget tree and click its Add Widget icon. This time, when you search for a divider, you should see it appear in the results. Select it. Okay, now let's style the divider. With the divider widget selected, go to its properties on the right side. Find the color setting. Click the color chip and choose a yellow color from the palette. After setting the color, let's adjust its appearance. Set the thickness to 3. For the height, let's try 500. Set the width to 300. Let's also set the indent to 15. This adds some spacing from the edge. You might need to adjust the divider's highlights with indent values to get it lined up nicely below your text. Play around with the position until it looks good relative to your text. The final widget for this page is the button. Let's go back to the stack in the widget tree on the left and click its Add Widget icon one more time. Find and select the button widget. Now select the button and let's configure it over on the right side in the Properties panel. First, change the button text from the default to Explore. Then set the font to Outfit, just as we just did, sorry, and the font size to 18. Still on the right side, scroll down until you find the button default style section. Let's set a specific size. For the width, type in 300. For the height, set it to 100. For the fill color, the button's background color, click the color chip and select black from the palette. Now you can simply click and drag the button directly on the canvas to position it towards the bottom of the screen, wherever you think it looks best. We have our button visually ready, but now let's make it actually do something. Go to the Properties panel on the right side again, but this time click on the second tab, which is the Action tab. On this tab, click the Add Action button. Okay, what do we want to happen? We want the app to navigate to page B when this button is tapped. Under the Navigation tab, choose Navigate to. Now it asks which page to navigate to. We need to select page B from the drop-down list here. However, we have not created page B yet, so it don't appear in the list to select. Let's quickly create page B now. To create our second page, click the same green Add Page button we used before. This time, instead of a blank page, let's use a template. In the pop-up, you can browse through the list category and manually find the template named list 08, or you can just type list space 08 into the search bar. You should see a template that looks like a product list. Select it. You might be asked to choose a theme, default theme, or my theme. For this tutorial, let's stick with the default theme. Finally, give this new page a name. Let's call it B_resto. Alright, we created page B so we could set up the action on page A. So let's navigate back to page A in the editor. Once you're back on page A's canvas, click on the Explore button to select it again. Go back to the Actions tab on the right side. Now, in the Navigate to drop-down menu, you should see B_resto listed as an option. Select it. If you followed these steps correctly, you should have results looking like this. Alright, now it's time to tackle the design of page B, our restaurant list page. So, what will page B look like? At the top, we'll have a title. Below that, we'll display a list featuring images and names of the restaurants. The key thing here is that this is a list. That means even though we'll design the look for just one item in the list, FlutterFlow will automatically repeat that design for every restaurant in our database. Let's get started on building page B. First, let's change the title text at the top. Go ahead and select the text element and then head over to the Properties panel on the right. Find the text input field. It probably says Order Now from the template. Change that text to Restaurants. You might also notice a little shopping cart icon next to that title. We won't be using that, so please select the icon and delete it. Just below the restaurant's title, there's likely some gray placeholder text. Select that text and delete it too. When you delete that text, you might find there is still a row widget left behind. Please delete that row widget as well, so in total you'll delete 2 widgets here. Okay, next up are the image cards in the lists. The template has some placeholder images that are not related to our restaurants. Let's connect this list to our actual data so the images and names match the Michelin restaurants we uploaded earlier. To do this, we need to tell this page where to get its data from. Since this is a list of items, we'll use a list view widget. This is the widget responsible for displaying multiple items based on data. Look in the widget tree on the left side and find the list view widget. Select it. Now go over to the properties panel on the right. This time we need the third tab, the one that usually looks like a database cylinder icon. Click on that tab. You should see an Add Query button. Please click it. A pop-up window will appear. For the query type, make sure you select Query Collection. Then for the collection dropdown, choose the database collection we created earlier, which should be named Michelin 3 stars. Now I think it would look much better if the restaurants were listed out alphabetically by name. To make that happen, scroll down a bit in this pop-up until you find Ordering section. Click the Order By button, and for the collection field name, the field we want to sort by, select Restaurant from the dropdown. This should match the column header for restaurant names in your CSV. Leave the direction as ascending. Finally, click the Confirm button, and you might need to click Confirm again on the main query pop-up. With that, we've successfully set up our list view to fetch data from our database, specifically ordered the list alphabetically by restaurant name, and indicated we'll be using the restaurant field. If you followed those steps correctly, your screen should show that the list view is now linked to data, looking something like this. Now we need to tell the individual elements which specific piece of data to display. Let's start with the image. Click on the image inside the first list item. Go over to the Properties panel on the right. Find the Path setting for the image. Right next to the text path, you'll see a small orange database icon. We click this icon whenever we want to pull data from our database. Go ahead and click that orange icon next to Path. A pop-up will appear showing the available data fields. In the pop-up, select our database source, which will be labeled as Michelin 3 stars document. Then from the fields listed under that source, select URL underscore image. Click Confirm. After doing this, the image area on the canvas might turn blank. This is perfectly normal, don't worry. It just means it's now set to load the image dynamically, sorry, when the app runs. Next, let's connect the restaurant name. Click on the main text element within that first list item. Go to its properties on the right. Just like with the image, find the main text property and click the orange database icon next to it. In the pop-up, again, select the Michelin 3 stars document source. This time, select the restaurant field from the list. This corresponds to the restaurant name column in our data. This tells the text widget to display the actual restaurant name from the database for each item in the list. Looking at the templates list item, you might find some other text widgets below the main title, subtext, and the price. We don't need this for our app, so please select each of them and delete them. Okay, now let's make the entire restaurant card clickable. When a user taps on a restaurant's card, we want it to navigate to the Details page, page C. and then find the first menu item. Click to select it. Make sure you're selecting the first menu item that is directly underneath the list view in the widget tree. We're going to delete all the other menu items later, so we need to set up the action on this one. With the first menu item selected, go to the Properties panel on the right and switch to the Action tab, the second tab, and click the Add Action button. Just like before, we want to navigate to another page. Click the drop down under Navigate to, but you'll notice you can't find C_details yet because, well, we haven't created it. So let's quickly create page C just like we did for page B. Click the green Add Page icon again, and in the pop-up window, search for Details space 08. Select that template, and as you did for page B, choose the default theme when prompt. Then name this new page C_details. Once that's done successfully, you should see the new page C on your screen. We were in the middle of adding an action on page B, so let's go back to page B now. Once you're back on page B, select that first menu item widget again. Go back to the Actions tab on the right side. This time, when you click the Navigate to dropdown, you should see C_details listed as an option. Select it. When the action has been successfully added, the Actions tab should reflect the navigation setup looking like this. Great, now it's time for a bit of cleanup on page B. The template we used included several copies of the menu item. We only need the first one, the one we just configured with our data and actions. We need to delete all the others. Select the Delete all the other menu item widgets below the first one. There will be 6 of them. You can just click on each extra menu item and press the Delete key, or right-click and select Delete. Deleting menu items should also automatically remove all the child widgets inside it. When you're done, you should only have the list view and directly under it just one menu item containing your configured image and text widgets. One more touch for page B. I think it would be helpful to have a back button so users can easily return to page A. To do this, look near the top of the main canvas area. You should see an icon, a small icon to configure the app bar, the bar that typically appears at the top of the screen. Click on it. This will likely show you a pop-up with a few different app bar style options. Let's select the third option shown, the one that has the page title centered and includes a back arrow icon on the left side. Now click on the newly added app bar on the canvas to select it. Go to its properties on the right side. Find the background color setting and click the color chip. This time, let's use one of the FlutterFlow's predefined theme colors. Scroll down in the color palette options until you find a color named Info. Select it. You'll notice the back arrow icon might also be white, making it hard to see against the new background color. Let's fix that. Click directly on the back arrow icon button within the app bar on the canvas to select it. Go to its properties on the right. Find the icon properties section. For the icon color, click the color chip. This time, scroll through the predefined theme colors and select primary. Okay, one last bit of housekeeping. We've probably noticed that FlutterFlow created a default page called Home Page when we first started the project. We are not using it at all. Please find the home page in your list of pages and delete it. Now, finally, it's time to test our progress. Look for the test button in the upper right corner of the FlutterFlow interface. It often has a thunderbolt icon. But wait, when you click it, you might get a message saying you cannot start the test mode because there are errors that need to be fixed first. Look again in the upper right corner. You should see some small status icons, possibly including a little bug icon. It's kind of cute actually. Next to the bug, you might see numbers in colored circles. Maybe a 1 in yellow and a 3 in red. The yellow circle indicates warnings. You can still test your app even with warnings, though it's good practice to review them later. The red circle, however, indicates error or bugs. You must fix these red flagged errors before you can test your app. But don't worry, debugging errors is usually quite straightforward. You just need to read the message and make the suggested fix. I assume we have 3 red errors currently. The first error says property override. This often happens when template elements have conflicting default settings after we've connected our database. Specifically, it can occur with the image path from the original template. When you click on the error message in the error list, FlutterFlow takes you directly to the page where the bug occurs. In this case, it keeps us on page B. To fix it, go to the Properties panel on the right for the image widget. Find the image type setting. It should be set to network since we're loading URLs from the database. Now, even if it already says network, sometimes you need to kind of reset it. Try changing the image type to something else like asset, and wait a second, and then change it back to network. Wait just a moment and you should see the error count in the top right corner decrease. The number of red error was 3, but now it should be 2. Okay, the next error is labeled auth page setup. Click on that error message. FlutterFlow will take you to the main authentication settings page for your project. On that page, find the main toggle switch labeled Enable Authentication. Make sure this option is turned off. Why? Because for our simple restaurant viewer app, users don't need to log in or enter any personal data. Therefore, we don't need the authentication feature enabled. So just deactivate the option. And again, wait a second or two, you should see the error count drop again. You should have only 1 red error left now. The last error relates to routing. Click on this error message. It should take you to the app details page. You need to tell FlutterFlow which page should be displayed when the app starts. Find the initial page and select the page we created first, a_main as entry page. With those errors fixed, the red arrow count should now be 0. Um, Finally, it's really time to test. Find that blue-purple test button again in the upper right corner, the one with the thunder icon. Click the button. Now you'll need to wait a bit, while FlutterFlow builds your app for testing. This can take a few minutes. During this loading time, FlutterFlow displays helpful tips about using the platform. Do you play video games? Sometimes when a game is loading, it shows you little hints or tips on the loading screen. Like some games might give you tips such as, when you go to the farm, you might find some secret carrots. Well, this is kind of like that. FlutterFlow provides useful tips while you wait for your test session to build. Okay, the wait is over. Let's test. When the test mode is ready, a new browser tab should open, displaying your app. You should see our gorgeous, beautiful main page first. Now, click the Explore button. If everything works, it should navigate you smoothly to the next page, page B, displaying the restaurant's title, and below it, a list showing the image and name for each restaurant from your database in alphabetical order. We've made it to the final stage, creating page C, the details page. So, what's the plan for page C? It will look something like this. We'll have a title at the top, followed by the restaurant's image, and then some specific details, like the restaurant's name, its cuisine type, city, and country. Finally, there will be a button that links directly to the official Michelin website of the selected restaurant. If you are still in the FlutterFlow test mode from the previous step, let's switch back to the main FlutterFlow editor tab in your browser. You should see the C details page template that we created earlier. Let's start customizing it. First, let's change the title at the very top. Click on the title text element and go to the Properties panel on the right. Find the text input and change it from the default facility details to restaurant information. Now for all the other elements on this page, the image, the restaurant name, the cuisine type, etc., we're not going to type the text in manually. Instead, we need to pull this information dynamically from our database, making sure we show the correct details for whichever restaurant the user selected on page B. This next part is really crucial for making the whole app work correctly. We're going to use something called parameter. Let me take a moment to explain what parameters are and why we need them here. Think about it. We have page B, the list, and page C, the details, right? On page B, the user taps on a specific restaurant card. On page C, we need to display the details for only that selected restaurant, not all of them. How does page C know which restaurant's information to show? That's where parameters come in. Here's the plan. When the user taps a card on page B, we'll send an ID for that specific restaurant over to page C. Then, on page C, we'll set it up to receive that ID. Think of page C as having a background reference waiting for an ID. Once page C receives this ID, we'll tell each element on the page, like the image widget or the text widget for the name, exactly which field from the database like URL underscore image or restaurant to display for the restaurant associated with that specific ID. So the flow is page B sends ID, page C receives ID, page C uses ID to fetch and display the correct data. Now, why are we using an ID here? Do you remember when we looked at our data, there was that unique ID automatically assigned to each restaurant record for each row in the database? This ID acts like a perfect messenger. Sure, we could try to send each piece of data individually from page B to C, like sending the restaurant name as one parameter, the cuisine type as another, the city as another, and so on. But that gets complicated quickly. Instead, we'll use the unique document ID as our single messenger. Why? Because that one ID is linked to all the information for that specific restaurant in the database row. Its restaurant name, cuisine type, city, country, image URL, website URL, everything. So by sending just the ID, page C can then look up the entire record and access all the information it needs. I hope that explanation makes sense. So let's actually implement this now. First step, on page B, we need to modify the menu item action to send the ID parameter to page C. Navigate back to page B in the FlutterFlow editor. In the widget tree for page B, select the menu item widget. Go over to the Properties panel on the right and select the Actions tab. You should see the Navigate to See Details section we set up earlier. Now scroll down a bit and you should find a button labeled Define. Please click it. When you click Define, you'll notice something interesting. FlutterFlow automatically jumps you over to the Page C editor view. This is normal because parameters are defined on the page that receives them. Here on Page C's parameter definition screen, click the Add Parameter button. We need to define what kind of information Page C is expecting to receive. For the parameter name, type it in manually exactly as ID. For the type, click the drop-down and select Document Reference. This tells FlutterFlow we're expecting a reference like an ID that points to a specific document in a database collection. For the collection type, select our database collection, Michelin 3 stars. Now click the Confirm button. Okay, FlutterFlow should automatically take you back to the action settings on page B. We've defined that page C expects an ID parameter, but now we need to tell page B section what value to send for that parameter. Still on the Actions tab for the menu item on page B, you should now see the Pass button. Click it and click the ID parameter listed under the navigation action to set its value. We need to tell it which ID to pass. Click the orange database icon next to the value input. From the pop-up, select the source, which is our Michelin 3 stars document. Under that, don't select a specific field like name or city. Instead, select the special option called Reference. This passes the ID of that database document. Click the Confirm button. If you've set that up correctly, the action details on page B should now clearly show that it's passing the document reference as the ID parameter when navigating to page C. You should have results looking like this. Excellent. Now for the second major part, setting up page C to receive and use that ID. First, we need to tell page C how to fetch the full details using the ID. Go to the page C. In the widget tree, select the top level widget for the page, which is named C_details. Go to the Properties panel on the right and select the Database tab, the third icon, the cylinder, and click the Add Query button. In the pop-up, this time for query type, select Document from Reference. This means we want to fetch data based on the reference we provide. For collection, choose our Michelin 3 stars collection. Now we need to tell it where to get the reference from. Click on Set. Select the ID parameter we defined earlier. Then click the Confirm button and confirm again. So far, we've set up the background connection. Page C now knows that when it loads, it should expect an ID parameter and use that ID to fetch the corresponding data from the Michelin 3 stars. Now, we just need to connect the individual widgets on page C to the specific fields within that fetched source. This is the What field to display where part. Let's start with the image. On the page C canvas, click the large blank space where the image should be. It's an image widget. Go to its properties on the right. Find the path and click the orange database icon next to it. In the pop-up, you should now see a source like Michelin 3 stars document fetched via our parameter. Expand it and select the URL_image field. Next is the main restaurant name text. Click the text widget on the canvas where the name should go. Go to its properties on the right. Again, click the orange database icon next to the text field. In the pop-up, select the Michelin 3 stars document and this time choose the restaurant field. This will display the correct restaurant name. Now for the cuisine type. Find the text widget intended for the cuisine. Select that text widget on the canvas, go to its properties on the right, and click the orange icon for the text field. In the pop-up, select the database source and choose the cuisine field. Next, the city name. Select the gray text widget, go to its properties on the right, click the orange icon for text. Select the database source and choose the city field. While you're here, you might notice a divider widget below the city from the template. We don't need it, so please select that divider and delete it. Now for the country name. Click the next text widget on the canvas. Go to its properties, click the orange icon for text. Select the database source and this time choose the country field. Also, let's make the country text match the city text size. While the country text widget is selected, find the font size property on the right and set it to 16. Looking at the template, there might be several other text widgets below the country. We don't need any of the remaining template texts for our app, so we'll delete them. An easy way to get rid of them might be to look in the widget tree on the left. Find the list view widget that contains all these extra text elements, and simply select that entire list view and delete it. Okay, almost done with page C. Let's configure the button at the bottom. What we want is for this button, when tapped, to open the official Michelin website link for the specific restaurant being viewed. But first, let's rename the button. Select it on the canvas. Go to its properties and change the button text from create inspection to view in website. Now let's add the action. Still on page C, with the button selected, go to the Actions tab on the right and click Add Action. Scroll down through the action types until you find a section labeled Share. Click it. Within that section, you should find an action called Launch URL. Select it. Now we need to tell it which URL to launch. For the URL value type, choose From variable. Click the Unset and choose our database source, Michelin 3-stars document, and select the URL field, the one containing the website links from our data. That's it. Page C is fully configured. Now let's do the final test. Look at the test button in the top right corner. Is it green? If it's green, it means your previous test session might still be active in another browser tab. In this case, you can simply switch to that test mode tab and you should see a button Instant Reload. Click that. FlutterFlow will quickly update the running app with all the changes you just made to page C and the parameters. However, if the button in the editor is still the usual blue-purple color, it means the previous session timed out. No problem, just click the button and wait for FlutterFlow to build and open a new test mode session. Alright, the test mode is ready. Let's run through the entire flow. On the first page, page A, click the Explore button. You should land on page B, showing our beautiful list of restaurants. Could you please scroll down the list a bit until you find the restaurant named Masa? Now, click on the Masa card. This should navigate you smoothly to page C, the details page. Let's check. You should see the correct image for Masa, the same one shown on a page B's card. The restaurant name should be displayed as Masa. Below that, it should correctly show that they serve Japanese cuisine and that the location is New York, USA. Looks good. Finally, on this page, click the View in Website button. This should trigger the Launch URL action. A new browser tab should open, taking you directly to the official Michelin Guide page for the Masa restaurants. We can quickly confirm the details match. The restaurant name is Masa, the cuisine is indeed Japanese, the city is New York, and the country is USA. Success! Alright everyone, we've reached the final exciting step. It's time to deploy our app. First things first, please head back to the main FlutterFlow tab in your browser. Now look towards the upper right corner of the FlutterFlow interface. You might see a code icon. Click on that. Inside this menu, you'll find an option, Download APK for Android users. However, you'll likely notice a little yellow star icon next to it. This means it's a premium feature and not available on the free plan. And for iOS users, you won't even see a direct download option for an installable file in this menu. But don't worry, we have a great workaround, which we actually prepared for earlier. Remember when we first set up the project, we enabled the web app option. Let's use that now. Go to the settings section in FlutterFlow. Inside settings, find and select the web deployment and click the publish button. This is how we can deploy our app as a web application, making it accessible on our mobile devices through a browser. That's exactly why we enabled that web app option way back at the beginning. You might get a message popping up saying something like um, enable web support before publishing. If you see that, no problem. Just go to the uh, platform section within settings, find the web option, and make sure it's activated. Then navigate back to the web deployments section and click the publish button again. Sometimes after clicking publish, the status message might show n/a, which means not applicable. If you see that, just click the publish button one more time. You'll notice you now have a preview icon. It might take a moment to kick in. You might even need to refresh the page and click publish again. Eventually, you should see the status change to publishing ... Now we just need to wait a little while for FlutterFlow to build and deploy the web version of our app. And when the process is complete, the status message will update, showing a unique URL and some deployment details. You'll also see a little eye icon appear next to the URL. Click this eye icon. This will open a new tab in your browser showing a live preview of your deployed web app. It should look just like it did in the test mode, or maybe fitting the browser window's aspect ratio a bit wider than a phone screen. Now go back to the FlutterFlow settings tab where your URL is displayed. You'll find your app's unique web address right here, right there. This is the URL you can use to access your app on your phone. So grab your phone, open a web browser, and carefully type this exact URL into the address bar. For example, it will look something like your project name .flutterflow.app. Now, a quick tip for iPhone users. I highly recommend using the Safari browser for this instead of Chrome or other browsers. Why? Because when you add a web app to your home screen from Safari, it often hides the browser's address bar and navigation buttons, making it look and feel much more like a native installed app. So if you're on an iPhone, open Safari, type in your app's URL. Once the page loads, tap the share icon at the bottom, scroll down the options, and select Add to Home Screen. You can then give the bookmark a name, like Michelin app or something. It's technically just a bookmark, but thanks to Safari, it behaves very much like a real app on your home screen. If you're an Android user, the process is similar, but results might look slightly different. Open your preferred browser like Chrome on your phone. Type in your app's URL, and once it loads, look for the browser's menu option and find the Add to Home Screen option. It will add an icon to your home screen, but often when you launch it, you might still see the browser's address bar at the top. If you really want that native app experience on Android without the browser UI, or if you want a proper installable app package APK file, you would need to use the download APK feature we saw earlier. But as I mentioned, this is a paid service. However, FlutterFlow usually offers a free trial period, often around 14 days. From my own experience testing it out during that free trial, I was able to make changes to my app and download the APK file multiple times within those 14 days. So if you're interested, you could explore the free trial to get the native build. Now, the most important question. Were you able to get the app running on your device? Did everything work correctly? I really hope so. And because you've made it this far, I have a little surprise challenge for you, if you're up for it. We created 3 pages together, A, B, and C. How about creating one more page? Actually, the very first version of this app that I built had 4 pages, not just 3. I had to cut that part out to keep this video from getting way too long. But why don't you give it a try? Add one more page to the flow. Here's the idea. This new page would become the second page, appearing right after you tap the Explore button on the main page, page A. And instead of going directly to the list of all restaurants, this new page B would first show you a list of country names to help categorize the restaurants. Then when the user taps on a specific country name on this new page B, then it would navigate to the restaurant list page, our current page B now becoming page C, but filtered to show only restaurants from the selected country. The final details page, our current page C, now page D, would work the same way. Want some hints for building this new country selection page? On the page, you could have a background image and some title text. Then you could add maybe 8 or so cards on each card. You would manually type the name of a country that has restaurants in your database. These country names are not coming dynamically from the database. You just type them directly onto the widgets. Then you would set up a tap action on each country card, or you can set up one and copy paste. This action would navigate to the next page, the restaurant list page, but crucially, you'd need to define and pass a parameter using the country field. So you create a parameter on the restaurant list page to receive the country name, and then you would modify the database query on that page to filter the result, showing only restaurants where the country field matches the parameter you received. This way, the list page dynamically shows restaurants only for the selected country. If you get stuck on this exercise, or if you had trouble with any of the other instructions or steps that I shared today, please remember that there are always resources available to help you. FlutterFlow has excellent official documentation you can search through. They also have a fantastic YouTube channel with lots of tutorials and training videos. Plus, there's a vibrant FlutterFlow community from a community forum where you can ask questions, see how others solved problems, and get answers from fellow users and sometimes even the FlutterFlow team. So you can learn a lot from the community. My next question for you is, what's your idea? What are your thoughts about the app we just created together? Maybe looking at it sparks some ideas for improvements, a different background image, a catchier name, maybe adding a new feature like sorting or searching, or perhaps trying out some different widgets you saw. Please feel free to experiment and play around with the project yourself. Or even better, what's your idea for your own mobile app? Why not take what you've learned today and start creating a brand new app based on your own interests? Now you have a solid understanding of how to build an app without code using FlutterFlow. So why not give it a shot? In my case, maybe I'll finally get around to cataloging my cosmetic products or the fashion items in my closet. I could create a cool mobile app where I enter the data, and when I select an item, it reminds me why I bought it, highlights its best features, tells me when it expires for cosmetics, maybe tracks when I need to repurchase it, and even reminds me where I stored it. That could be really useful and cool. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this tutorial and for your time today. I really hope you enjoyed building this app, and more importantly, I really hope you feel inspired and empowered to go out and build your own amazing mobile apps. Thank you.